DATV, and the Greater Dayton Area League of Women Voters present Meet the Candidates, your chance to learn about the candidates running for office in the November election.
Hi, I'm Patty Skilkin, and I'm a proud member of the League of Women Voters of the Greater Dayton Area who's bringing you this discussion today. I'm going to be talking to candidates running for Riverside City Council. There are 7 candidates running for 4 open seats, and we have 5 of the candidates here with us. The other 2 were unable to be here. The job pays $4,000 a year, so nobody's getting rich. They're just genuinely interested in public service. We're going to start by giving each candidate 2 minutes to make an opening statement. This is where they're going to tell you a little bit about themselves, why they're running, whatever they want to tell you. Bev, we're going to start with you. You have 2 minutes.
Okay. Well, I've lived in Riverside all my life, and I retired from Charles Jurgens Construction Company. I worked on CDC, which is a Avondale Community Development Corporation. I'm a former member of City Council, and I've did neighborhood watch in my area, and I was a loss prevention officer for 10 years.
Thank you. Mike, we're going to go to you. You have a chance to make an opening statement now.
Hello, my name's Mike Denning. I've been on council now for almost 8 years. I've lived in Riverside since 1980. I lived a couple years in Overlook, and then I moved up onto Arrow Rock. Then I moved back into Overlook, and now I live on Schwinn Drive. I've lived in, my main focus has been community service. I've been in the JCs, run the haunted house, helped start the Founders Day Festival, and my soul is community service. And to me, working on city council and with the other city council members is the ultimate in community service, and that's what I want to do again.
Thank you, Mike. Our next candidate who's going to talk to you for a minute is Brenda Fry. Brenda, you have 2 minutes to make a statement.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Brenda Fry. I'm a lifelong resident of the Miami Valley. I moved to Riverside in 1999 to start my family, moved into the Forest Ridge neighborhood. I have a lifelong interest in community service. Starting in college, I did Habitat for Humanity. It was a founding chapter there. And I did a year of volunteer service with the Catholic Marianists right before college. I've done Girl Scout leadership, and I see this as the next step in, excuse me, in that evolution of continually giving more to the community. One of my goals as a council person is to really develop a sense of community and community engagement in Riverside. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Sarah Lomatch is our next candidate who's going to speak to you. Sarah, you have a couple minutes to tell the voters about yourself.
Thank you very much to DATV and the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to share our personalities and our desires to the community of Riverside. I've been a resident of Riverside for 40 years after living all over the world, and a wonderful life as an Air Force wife. Moved here and immediately got involved with the school district as a school board member, and then evolved into the city of Riverside when we incorporated, and decided when my children finished school that I would move on to city government, and I was on charter commission and have been on council for a while, have enjoyed every minute of it most of the time. It's a challenging job. I admire people who are interested, and I encourage people to come out and be involved in their government and participate. We have a lot of things going on that are awesome in Riverside, and I hope that more people and young people, I'm delighted to see we have some young people who are interested enough to put themselves out, because putting yourself out for public election is not easy. But I have served on the Miami Valley Military Affairs Board at the base. I'm involved with the chamber. I'm on the MVRPC, have been on that since the 90s. I enjoy everything I do, and I look forward to serving another 4 years.
Thank you, Sarah. Kyle Winning is the last candidate we'll be talking to today. Kyle, you have a couple minutes to talk to the voters.
Hello, my name is Kyle Winning. A little bit about myself. I grew up and born and raised in West Carrollton, a community not unlike Riverside with some of its struggles of being a small landlocked community. I graduated early from West Carrollton High School in 2005 to go to Sinclair to become a firefighter paramedic. I spent a little under a decade doing that, which was a lifelong passion of mine. I loved every minute of it, being able to serve the citizens. I was laid off in 2014 from Beaver Creek as a firefighter paramedic, and that gave me the opportunity to become a stay-at-home father, which turns out is another passion of mine, taking care of my kids. It's been wonderful. I love being able to spend the time with them, and it's gotten me out in the community. And while I was doing that, I saw some things I wasn't quite happy with, and so, of course, I'd complain to my wife, and she would say, well, what do you want to do about it? So that's where I am today. I want to get out. I've heard from the community there's some people unhappy. They want to see a different direction, and that's why I'm running to give a new voice to the city, to help bring some youth into the city government and help focus Riverside's future on what I consider our future, the children, and leaving them a better city than we had, which is a value of mine of always finding something and leaving it better than you found it. I thank the DATV and the League of Women Voters for this opportunity. Thank you, and I hope you vote for me.
Thank you, Kyle. All right, now we're going to get down to the meat and potatoes of this discussion. We're going to start with Mike Dennis with the first question. You'll have 2 minutes to answer it. You know, I'm sure that being a council member, you have to wear a lot of different hats. But which hat do you think is the most important? What do you think is the most important role of a council member?
The most important role of a council member is to listen, listen, listen. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. We should listen at least twice as much as we talk, and politicians talk a lot. That's the number one thing that we should do. I do wear a lot of hats. I wear a JC hat, I wear a city council hat, I wear a contractor at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base hat, but when I'm out in the community, I want to listen to the community members and what is important to them. When I vote as a council member, I am representing 25,000 people, not just my own personal opinion, and I need to listen to everybody in the community and weigh the pluses and minuses and what the majority of the community is asking us to do and what direction they want to see the city go in, and that's what I want to do for my community. Regardless of my own personal opinion, what is in the best interest of the city and the community?
Thank you, Mike. Next candidate is Brenda Fry. Brenda, what do you think is the most important role of a council member?
Well, I guess I would say that the most important role of a council member is to engage the community and to help the residents find ways to engage on the problems that they seek to solve. I think there's a lot of untapped potential in Riverside, and I think that one of the strategies that I'd like to bring forward is innovating ways to engage the community and help cultivate a leadership in our residents so that we're not all trying to solve the problem within City Council, that we are giving them opportunities to be engaged and grow and better the community while bettering themselves.
Thank you, Brenda. Sarah, it's your turn. Give us your idea of what you think the most important role is in this job.
I can't disagree with anything that the previous two folks have said, and I believe that that's very true, and we've made efforts recently to bring people in, to get them involved. We have lots of issues to deal with in the city of Riverside, and we do need folks, and we are beginning a new initiative with a volunteer organization that I'm hoping is going to be the strategy that will bring more people and welcoming into the city to be involved, to bring their concerns, to listening is key always. And I do believe exactly what both of the previous candidates have said. And I've always believed that I'm a good listener, and I have always put Mad River Township and Riverside and Mad River Schools paramount in my thoughts and my prayers.
Thank you, Sarah. Kyle, you're up. What do you think is the most important role?
For me, the most important role of any elected official is to be an advocate for your citizens and your electors. Now, being an advocate to me means several things. One is to be the voice for the voiceless. When somebody who might have an idea but is too afraid or too shy to come forward and speak it, I want to be able to listen to that person and come advocate for their cause. I also want to advocate for the charitable organizations in Riverside to help them fulfill their missions, be it the schools or one of the other organizations like a Boy Scout, Girl Scout troop, any of our citizens that want to get involved that may not have the gumption to put themselves out there and do it. I also believe I have to be an advocate for the an advocate for the citizens and the way I vote. There may be a topic that might not be popular among everybody. I have to be willing to put aside my personal beliefs and advocate for what is best for the city to make the city a better place. I believe being an advocate for the citizens also means being an advocate for the city, going out to outside organizations and pleading the city's case. I believe it would be my job to go stand on the rooftops and tell everybody about how great the city of Riverside is, fight for our causes at the state and federal level, to get outside grant money, to go lure at businesses to come fill our shops, build new buildings, and make the city a better place for all its citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Next, Beverly Campbell. Beverly, what do you think about this topic?
You're talking about the hats.
We're talking about the hats.
I mean, everything they said
What do you
was
think the
fine.
most important role of a council member is?
Oh, okay. Being able to talk to people, get out and get some of their ideas, have a community meeting. And I think try to get along with the council members. You know, sometimes they're need to get the group together on the same subject at the same time, and I like to see more of that with the city council.
Thank you. We're going to move on to another question here. We'll start with Brenda this time. Brenda, what do you think the city's biggest challenge is right now? I know there are many, but what would you put at the top of the list?
I think the city has twin challenges, actually. First of all, we have relatively low economic prosperity, economic development compared to the surrounding cities. Coupled with that, we are also in the middle of an opioid crisis. And I think one feeds into the other. I think there was a Dayton Daily News article recently that shared how their companies are actually hurting for employees that can pass a drug test. So a lot of the residents who are unemployed can't get a job because of their addictions. So I think that as we solve the problem of helping our community be healthier and addressing the opioid crisis, then we actually in turn help our economic prosperity. I think that as we look into the opioid crisis, we have to have a multifaceted approach. And so some of that, like Mayor Whaley is addressing the pharmaceutical companies and trying to get accountability for that. I think that also they're making sure that we have enough 12-step programs for people and looking at making sure that we have community support for people who are struggling and they just need a friend to listen. I think investing in our community in that way will ultimately help stem this crisis.
Thank you, Brenda. Sarah, your turn.
Thank you. Brenda has certainly identified a very serious crisis in the Dayton area and our community, and we have been very proactive in programs through our police and our fire department to address the needs of our residents. We have officers and fire paramedics who make return home calls, trying to engage the young people, well, the residents, not just young people, in getting involved in some programs that would help them overcome their problem. It is a terrible, terrible scourge that's on our community, and we certainly have been addressing that for a couple of years at this time. However, that's not our only problem. I think as an emotional and a medical problem, that is our largest problem. However, raising the financial ability to take care of our infrastructure and our residential streets has to be paramount, and economic development, of course, drives those dollars. So we do have many, many things that we need to address and have been addressing over a number of years, and I just hope those programs continue to progress, and I encourage all of our residents to get involved, give us input, give the council input, give the staff input. When they see someone from the staff, they need to talk to them and let them know. When they see a council member, they need to talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Kyle, let's hear your opinion. What do you think the biggest challenge facing Riverside is right now?
For me, the biggest challenge in the city of Riverside is probably our stale growth as a city. We are a landlocked, geographically challenged community made up of 7 islands, which leads us to having to be very, very innovative with the dollars we do have. When we have a community that's separated, it puts more wear and tear in our vehicles, and it leads us to not being able to have opportunities for economic development. When you're landlocked, everybody says, oh, bring in a new Kmart or whatever, and we just physically don't have the land. So we need to find ways to be creative, to maybe think outside the box and try to jump on the next new thing instead of chasing the bell curve. And I think part of Riverside's problem in having the stale growth and not having people coming in is, I'll admit it, Riverside doesn't necessarily have the best image in the community. We see new restaurants and shopping going in downtown Dayton, going in Beaver Creek and Huber Heights around us, but we've not seemed to have been able to fill that hole in the middle. Everybody just kind of skips over us. So to help fill that, overcome the stale growth, I want to go out and advocate for the city, help change our image. Instead of being, oh, I've got to drive through Riverside, I want it to be, hey, I get to go to Riverside. We have some awesome ethnic restaurants that are kind of hidden gems. I want to promote those. We do have the Air Force Museum. I want people who go to the Air Force Museum to stay in Riverside and spend their economic dollars and not drive someplace else. So for me, we need to change the image of the city to help overcome the challenges of stale growth and no economic development. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. Beverly, your turn. What do you think the biggest challenge facing Riverside is right now?
I'd say cleaning up. A lot of vacant houses need tore down. I know streets are an ongoing thing, and they are working on that. But they're not going to get anybody to come out here if we don't get it cleaned up first.
Never hurts to do a little housekeeping, does it?
Yep.
Mike, let's hear your thoughts on the topic.
The biggest issue with what's going on with us right now is, I believe, is financial. We've kind of come up with a plan to rework our capital improvements, which in most cases is our residential streets, but we need a way to finance it. When we were a township and a village, there were road levies in place, and there was actual funding specifically set aside for roads. in both entities. But because both entities didn't vote on those together, those went away when we merged as a city, and it was never replaced. And we've been trying to play catch up on our residential streets. Now, our main thoroughfares and things like that, we can get some state dollars and we can get some federal dollars, but we have no, everything else, all our residential streets has to come out of our general fund, and we're just now putting a plan together, and right now it's going to take us 20 years and $40,000 to replace to get our streets, our residential streets into place. But getting our residential streets into place and making them look nicer brings up everything in our neighborhoods and makes us more of a community, and makes us, and I think that's what we need. We need to clean it up, which will help, like Bev was saying, and then we'll be able to, and that'll push economic development in general.
Thank you, Mike. Our next question, we're going to start with Sarah. I have to make notes to myself so I remember what I'm doing. We've talked briefly about the opioid problem, which is running rampant all over the counties. The other issue that I hear a lot of talk about is food insecurity. Food insecurity I am defining as you don't know where, when, or if your next meal is coming. It's serious. I don't think it gets any more basic than simply having something to eat. How do you think Riverside Council can address either or both of these issues? How can they help?
I'm very involved in the facts that there are people hungry, and having been a lifetime child advocate, I am very, very concerned about the children that are hungry. And I'm involved in the Life Enrichment Center on Finley Street as a volunteer, and I go down and cook the first meal every Thursday morning. It's probably the most fulfilling thing I do in my entire week. Besides council, which I love the city of Riverside, and I have invested much of my life in volunteerism, and we do have programs to help our families that are in need. And currently this week we have Football for Food with a challenge with the Fairborn in the football game to collect food, and our JCs do a wonderful job. Many of our churches do great jobs to do that. The city, as Mike has alluded to, is financially we're in a deficit situation, and so to have an innovative new program to help feed people in Riverside is probably not very realistic at this point, but many organizations are doing fantastic jobs in the city of Dayton and the city of Riverside. So I would encourage anyone and everyone to get involved in helping your neighbor, helping anyone you know in an organization, if you have extra to share. And I think that asking your government at this level is not realistic.
Thank you, Sarah. Kyle, let's hear your thoughts on opioid addiction and food insecurity.
I believe the opioid problem and food insecurity go hand in hand. It was an issue I commonly saw when I worked in the streets as a paramedic. We would go to houses that had overdoses. We'd go time and time again, and there would be children in the house. There wasn't always food. There wasn't always a clean house, to where I think it's an issue. If we try to fix one, it'll maybe help fix the other. If we can give people an opportunity to do something other than use opioids, something like a community garden, which I'm a member of Parks and Rec community, and that's actually on our agenda, that we are looking at Drennan Park to put into community gardens. I would like to expand it to put in community orchards as well, to give somebody maybe a hobby of going out gardening, being able to want a BLT, go out pick that homegrown tomato, if you will, to put on it. I believe we should also work with some outside resources. I married into a farming family, and there are plenty of people who want to start a farmer's market. I believe there's a demand in Riverside for a farmer's market where somebody can go get some homegrown produce that's local, that may be organic, for cheaper than you can go to the supermarket to do. I believe that would be a huge win for the community and really wouldn't take many resources other than initially setting it up. I believe we should also be aggressive going after some grocery stores. Yes, we probably won't ever get a new Myers or a Kmart, something like that, but there are boutique type grocery stores that we can bring into the city. It might be a part-time thing, but we need to bring in some outside resources through either grant money or individuals who have the money and are willing to do something to help make Riverside a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Beverly, it's your turn. Talk to us about opioids and food insecurity.
Well, I don't know if they can get a grant to help with that. You know, you can always try, but there's a lot of churches, as Sarah said, that have food. People go pick up food and stuff like that. But you know, I was thinking of a lot of people, elderly, on Social Security, and like when it comes to fixing up their houses, they don't have the money to do it, and that's why we have so many empty ones. And I think they need to get some kind of grant there to go help people fix their houses up. They could have a food drive and have people donate some food for the holidays or any day. But I you know, there's just, I think they just about said everything that could be done, you know. But let's hope.
Thank you, Beverly. Mike, it's your turn.
Well, there are many churches and organizations in the city that try and serve food to folks, and nobody minds giving people a hand up. We're not so thrilled about a constant handout, so we need to be able to, and like Kyle alluded to, the community gardens and the community orchard and the farmers market. If folks can go and get their little plot and grow their vegetables for themselves and have extra and sell it at the farmers market, then it kind of does two things. Now, the opioid epidemic, we know it's everywhere, and it's entrenched in our system right now, and I don't know what the answer is on that. We just need to get people involved. I know the fire department and police department are making their second trips to the houses to try and get folks to get into programs. I don't know if the programs are long-term, but I do know that our children that 80%, I think it's 75 to 80% of our children in our schools are on free or reduced lunches. And that tells us a lot about where our city is economically. And we need everybody to pull together as a community and help each other. And that would, in both situations, would help a lot.
Thanks, Mike. Brenda, I'm sure you have some ideas on these topics. We'd like to hear them.
I spoke in the last segment about the opioid crisis. So I'll focus on food insecurity now. I appreciate what Councilwoman Lomach said about how we are limited in our funds for what the council can do. But there are a lot of things where council can provide leadership in ways that don't cost money. And one of those areas is coordination. So if council invested a little bit of money to identify where the needs are getting met in the community and where they're not, just having that data is going to help those organizations that are already doing food drives and food banks for the community to better serve the community. And an example is I've a volunteer with Girl Scouts, and our Girl Scouts are always looking for ways to help the community, yet they don't always know what's going to have the most impact. Just having that data, and I'm actually addressing that with the Girl Scouts next month by trying to bring in those community organizations so they can get to know them, they can get to know where the needs are. But if council could provide that leadership, that coordination, then those civic organizations that are already doing that type of work can work more efficiently.
Thank you, Brenda. Well, this has certainly been a lively discussion. We're going to wrap up with giving each candidate a couple of minutes to give us their final thoughts and to ask for your vote. This is your chance to say anything that you didn't get to say, some question I should have asked and didn't. This is your moment. Kyle, we're going to start with you. You have 2 minutes.
First, I want to thank the voters who took the time to sit down and listen to us speak. Not everybody likes to hear a politician talk, so kudos for you for sitting through this to listen. I believe I would be a great city councilman for the city of Riverside, and that I have worked as a city employee, and I've seen both sides of the city spectrum, being the low man, and this would give me a chance to be the top of the pyramid per se. I would like to take some outside ideas that I've seen implemented elsewhere, bring them to Riverside. I grew up in a community that struggled like we did, and they've overcome it, and I believe Riverside can too. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your vote. See you in November.
Thank you, Kyle. Beverly, this is your turn to ask people to vote for you.
Okay. I know there's a lot of crime in the cities, and I like to see that cleaned up a lot. But I lost my train of thought. But you know, there's so much you could say, but right now I'm dumbfounded. But we fight for our community, or we fight for our country. We fight for our community. So let's fight for. I had that wrong.
You're doing fine.
Okay. Let's. Okay.
Can we give Bev a second chance, please?
No, I got new teeth and I'm not used to. I can't talk. We fight for our country. Let's fight for our community and make it a better place to live. And I hope you vote for me November the 7th.
Thank you, Beverly.
Thank you.
Mike, you've got a couple minutes.
I've lived in this community for a long time. I've worked for the community, and my main focus has been community service, and this is the ultimate in community service. I've always said, come and talk to me. I will listen. I am your representative on City Council, and I want to listen to everybody. I may not agree with you, but I will listen to what you have to say. And please vote for me on November 7th.
Thank you, Mike. Brenda, you have a couple minutes now.
All right, thank you. One thing I've learned in my life is that challenges are opportunities. And we've talked a lot about the challenges that Riverside has, but I see tremendous potential for seizing upon these as opportunities and driving a lot of growth. I would like to see a perspective of not just looking at solving problems, the immediate problems that we have, but really envisioning a brand new future for Riverside and putting a lot of energy into it. And that's what I would bring to council.
Thank you, Brenda. Sarah, looks like you get to be last this time.
Well, thanks again for this opportunity, and I look forward to serving another 4 years for the city of Riverside. I've dedicated a lot of my time and my effort, my energy. We can always do better. The city has many innovative programs in place. We're working on neighborhoods that need refurbishing, homes that need to be taken down. We're currently removing some abandoned structures. Infrastructure, as I said before, the streets are important and we need to work on those. We need to find more people to serve, and I'm all about that garden and that farmer's market and making Riverside the best place to live in the valley. And thank you for voting for me.
Thank you, Sarah. This discussion has been brought to you by the League of Women Voters of the Greater Dayton area. I want everybody to understand that the League is a nonpartisan organization. We never ever support or oppose a candidate or a political party. If you're interested in membership, we would love to have you. call 228-4041, and we'll pounce on you. You should be watching October 9th. Our world famous voters guide will be in the libraries October 9th. Early voting begins at the Board of Election on the 11th, and the polls open at 6:30 on Election Day, which is November 7th. And last but certainly not least, I want to thank everybody at DATV who so generously donate their time, their equipment, and their expertise so we can bring you these discussions. Thank you and good night.